Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Hope you guys are keeping well. Of course, it's now coming towards the end of the international break. Wolves back in Premier League action this weekend. I'm sure some of you may have enjoyed the break due to our results so far this season. But it is the first full week of Rob Edwards being the Wolverhampton Wanderers head coach. As of today, Monday, this was his first day in training with the majority of the first team lads who are obviously still at Compton. Sure, over the next few days or so, more will follow. I'll probably do another video in the next day or so for a little bit of a recap over the international action. But today we have got the perspective of a Luton Town fan. Of course, we've seen all of the sort of animosity, I suppose, and negativity between Wolves and Middlesbrough with the appointment of Rob Edwards. But we'll get the Luton Town perspective, of course, later on as well in the video. Before we start off, though, today's video is sponsored by a long-time Wolves fan and musician, Jason Charles Miller. Jason is about to start his tour of the UK, which includes a stop in Wolverhampton this weekend on November the 22nd at the Clarendon in town, just a few hours after Wolves' game with Crystal Palace. So hopefully we are celebrating a win. And if you are going to be around for Saturday evening, be sure to go and check it out and grab your tickets below. And of course, there are other UK tour dates as well. If you can't make the Wolverhampton one, or if you're not local, he's in York this week, Oxford, Bury, Leicester and London as well. I've met Jason, a fantastic guy. So if you do enjoy his sort of music, be sure to go and check it out in the link down below. So Wolves and Rob Edwards. So he's starting off this week as head coach. We're still awaiting the appointment or confirmation of a couple of his coaches. As far as we're aware, obviously joining Rob will be Harry Watling. He's already been seen on the video footage. He's going to be Rob's assistant head coach. We're expecting Paul Trollope, who I spoke about last week, to be appointed as well. And then likely to be 2 or 3 more coaches on the way. As of right now, I'm trying to find out who they are, but nothing too concrete as of yet. But I'm hoping in the next sort of 24 to 48 hours or so, we will find out who they are. But Crystal Palace this weekend, of course, we'll have the pre-match stuff towards the end of the week. I'm really hoping we can get off to a winning start. Molineux has been flat because the football's not been very good recently. But if we can get off to a winning start at Molineux, under Rob Edwards, that would be fantastic and really hopefully give us a bounce that we need over the next few weeks or so to try and get us out of this horrible run of results. But yeah, like I said earlier on, I was great to speak to Kev, who's part of the Luton Town Supporters Trust, to get his thoughts and feelings on Rob Edwards and what he may or may not bring to Wolverhampton Wanderers. So then, guys, delighted to be here alongside Kev from the Luton Town Supporters Trust, just to get his thoughts and feelings on Rob Edwards and, of course, his arrival at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Kev, first of all, thanks for jumping on. How you been keeping?
You're more than welcome, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Hope you are too.
Yeah, all good, thank you. Obviously, you would have seen on the media, this has had quite a bit of traction. I don't know if it's just because of the international break and it's slow in terms of football news here in England, but let's quickly get your take on the overall situation. Rob Edwards leaving Middlesbrough, who are in a fairly promising position to join Wolves. What do you make of it from your point of view as a neutral?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it really. I think it's the only club he'd gone to. We had exactly the same thing 5, 6 years ago with Nathan Jones. He left us in
Of
a
course.
particularly good position and went to Stoke, and we weren't particularly happy with it. But that's football, isn't it? He's gone up a level, and good luck to him.
Yeah, no. Well, you had that similar with Nathan Jones when he went to Southampton as well, I suppose, and that's when Robert come in. So, what's your opinion of Rob Edwards? Because of course we know he got the promotion with Luton Town. I think he had a very decent attempt in regards to trying to keep Luton in the Premier League. And obviously it went a little bit downhill last year, which we'll talk about. But from a Luton Town perspective, as of right now the dust has settled a little bit. From your point of view, what's your sort of opinion of Rob Edwards?
Yeah, I have no problem with him. Obviously, like you say, it did go a bit downhill towards the end, but ultimately, he's the man who took us to the Premier League, and it was only one season, but it was an enjoyable season. And when you think 10 years ago we weren't even in the Football League, to have a season in the Premier League is just crazy. And yeah, Nathan did a lot of the hard yards, so there's no doubt about that. But Rob still had to come and get it over the line, and he did. So always grateful for that. Just wish it ended in slightly better circumstances than what it did.
Yeah, I've there have been certain people that have said sort of Rob Edwards was getting the blame for the relegation down to League One, but then he wasn't getting any credit for the promotion to the Premier League. I think you've probably summed it up quite well there. But we've seen it at Wolves where if a manager loses momentum, which Luton Town did, because did so well to get into the Premier League, and you sort of almost get into the habit of losing football matches, and then that continued into the Championship. What do you think went wrong for Rob? Because you didn't lose huge amounts of top players last season either. He just really struggled to get the momentum back.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem was we couldn't replace Ross Barkley. He was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely everything in the Premier League. Everything went through him. You just can't replace him at Championship level. And I think in hindsight, we'd probably got rid of a few more players than what we did after we come down. I think the general assumption was we've recruited to go back again when we got into the Championship because most expected us to get relegated. But what we didn't take into account was the players' heads had been turned by the Premier League, and they wanted to be back in the Premier League. And not really putting in a shift to get Luton back to the Premier League. So I think if we had our time again, and I'm sure if Rob had his time again, and maybe that would be something that's of interest to you, depending on how he goes with you this season, I think we would have turned over a lot more of the squad coming out of the Premier League. We did it the summer just gone, and we're starting to look a bit better for it. So I think that didn't really help him. Losing Ross Barkley was big, but keeping maybe too many players whose heads had been turned probably didn't help us either.
So the obviously the relegation down to League One again. Wolves have been there consecutive relegations before as well. Again, a lot of Middlesbrough fans, when we're having this conversation, made out they're giving him a huge opportunity because he has 2 relegations on his CV as such. But of course, he left the season last year a little bit earlier than the actual relegation itself. But do you think Rob was a big part of why Luton went down, or do you think there's a much bigger picture to it overall?
Yeah, not really. Just in the same way that he was part of the reason why we went up, he was only part of the reason why we went down. As I say, players have to take an awful lot of responsibility for it. But even when we went down, even when we sacked Rob, we weren't in the bottom 3. It wasn't
Yeah,
like where Wolves are right now, where they're in a position where it looks like they're guaranteed, from the outside looking in to be relegated. And I hope that's not the case.
yeah.
But um, you know, it was just a sort of number of things that just conspired against us, really. Maybe what we should have done was sack Rob a bit earlier than what we did. We kind of, because he had the credit of getting us to the Premier League, they kind of gave him a bit too long to turn it round when it was becoming clear that he wasn't going to turn it round. But apart from
Yeah.
that, no, I don't really hold a massive amount of blame to him. He tried his best. He just couldn't like you say, turn a losing mentality around.
Yeah, there's a lot of managers where when they lose the momentum, I think it's quite a strong trait for a manager to have if they can turn the momentum and turn the losing habit around. I'm hoping he can do it with Wolves this season, of course, but there is a lot of managers in the world of football that really struggle to turn things around. In terms of tactics, Kev, I mean, let's look maybe towards the Premier League season if you can remember that. How did Luton play? What was their tactical style? I suppose you knew as a Luton fan going up, you weren't going to be able to play teams off the pitch in regards to football. But what sort of strengths did Rob Edwards try and utilise from that Luton squad?
So we play a back 3. It was probably the first sort of coach that I recognised played his 3-4-3 as an out and out sort of 3-4-2-1. Now you see it all the time, don't you? I mean, Ruben
Yeah.
Amorim plays it at Man United quite regularly. But Rob was the first one that really kind of played it. So he'd sort of have Carlton Morris as the focal point, or Elijah Adebayo as the focal point of the attack. And then you'd have a couple of attacking midfielders, Jordan Clark and, someone else, maybe Andros Townsend when he was fit, and then Barkley and Lecongre behind them. And a back 3, and basically you'd go man for man at the back. So your back 3, your 2 wide centre halves take the 2 wide wingers, and your middle man takes the number 9 sort of thing. And then he looks to press high, looks to squeeze the ball in the opposition half of the pitch. And when you've got the ball, you attack with pace and purpose.
Yeah, it's similar. Wolves have had, we've probably seen our best success with a back 3 or back 5, to be fair, over the last few years. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons we brought Vitor Pereira in originally, because he played a back 5. And I think obviously Rob's got a lot of things a lot of connections with the club, but it probably does help that he knows and can play a back 5 system, because I think that Wolves have a lot of players. The one thing we are lacking, which I think needs to be addressed, is pace. Because I think from Luton's point of view, you probably would have seen it as a team. If you sit back and absorb the pressure, when you win the ball, you've got to get it up as quick as possible. And Wolves just haven't quite got that at the moment. Are you surprised, Kev, with how quickly Rob has seen himself back into the Premier League? Do you think he's got sort of a Premier League sort of future? Because obviously he's still quite a young head coach as well.
Yeah, not really that surprised. He was highly rated when he came to us. He'd obviously done a good job at Forest Green, coached in the England setup. I know that he coached alongside Gareth Southgate while Southgate was at England. He'd done some of the younger age groups, so he's kind of got a bank of experience and a decent reputation from there. So yeah, no, I'm not massively surprised. Although I do think obviously Wolves would have been the only club to have actually gone and got him. He'd have had to have got another club promoted to get back to the Premier League. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all that he's in the Premier League. And if we'd already had experience in the Premier League, say we were Burnley when Rob took us to the Premier League, I think we might have got over the line and stayed up. But it was just that first 10 or 12 games of working out what on earth we were doing in the Premier League that kind of cost us at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, like I've said, I've tried to say this to a lot of people. I think it's very easy to say, yeah, look, he's got Luton relegated almost back-to-back seasons. But I think if you look at the actual context of it, I don't think, respectfully, nobody expected Luton to even have a fighting chance of staying up that first season, and they caused a lot of teams, big teams as well. They caused problems throughout that season as well. And sort of away from the football, Kevin, in regards, I mean, being part of the Supporters Trust, you may have had some sort of dealings or discussions or conversations with Rob Edwards. What do you think he was like overall as a person and engaging with the fans as well?
Yeah, I host our podcast, and we had Rob on the podcast within the first couple of weeks that he was appointed, because he was appointed.
Oh,
Do
brilliant.
you remember we had the World Cup break in the middle of that season? So he was appointed right at the start of that World Cup break. So he came on the podcast. I think part of it was to kind of dampen down the noise, because he'd just left Watford, hadn't he, which was our rivals.
Yeah.
But no, he's a really engaging guy. I always found it to be a really pleasant person to be around. He's hugely motivating. You know, his company is good, and he doesn't tend to have a bad word to say about anyone. And I've not heard too many people from inside the club, at least, have a bad word to say about him. So he's a really engaging character. And from that point of view, you like to see good people do well, don't you? And so from that point of view, I hope he does well with you guys.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, yeah, like I say, everybody knows he's got good connections with the football club, and I'm really hoping that sort of good vibe, good spirit, good atmosphere can help Wolves and potentially just keep us in the Premier League. I think it's a big ask, like you've already mentioned, so I really hope so. And now I've seen him on a couple of club podcasts. I think he did one with a Watford fan that I know of as well, so maybe I'll have to put the feelers out to see if he'll jump on and have a chat with us in the next few weeks as well. But Kev, thank you very much for jumping on. Where can people find you, the Luton Town guys, on social media if they wish?
Yeah, our social media is at Luton Town ST, and that's where you'll find out everything about the trust.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And all the best to Luton for the rest of the season, mate. Hopefully, I mean, we may see you next season, depending on if we stay up or go down. And obviously, hopefully you boys have a positive end to the campaign as well.
He'll probably get a better welcome here than he will do at the Riverside, if that's the case anyway.
No, brilliant, Kev. No worries. Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks for jumping on.
You're welcome. All the best, mate.
So a big thanks to Kev. I'll make sure to leave a link to the Supporters Trust in the description down below. And I appreciate you stopping by once again, guys. It's been a little bit hectic for me over the last week or so. Last week was ridiculously tiring with all the content and so on. I'm moving house this week as well. So it's just going to be a little bit full on. So bear with me. I'll try my best to push out as much content as I can as always. But yeah, really appreciate it as always. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys very, very soon.